Now let us begin. Now let us rededicate ourselves to the long and bitter but beautiful struggle for a new world. The wisdom of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words know no bounds and always have a way of continuing to speak to our present-day realities. As we come to observe Black History Month during the month of February every year, I find myself routinely going back and delving into the many speeches and sermons that Dr. King wrote and delivered during his short life and career, and I am always finding myself becoming reacquainted with something that he had written, of which I had long forgotten about, that serves to transcend through time and offer a profound pearl of wisdom that helps to change and reorient my perspectives. The particular quote that I just read was taken from a speech that Dr. King delivered on April 4th, 1967, almost exactly 1 year before his assassination. He was invited to be the keynote speaker at a conference held at Riverside Church in New York City by an organization named Clergy and Laymen Concerned About Vietnam that had recently formed in response to the increasing U.S. military presence in the Vietnam War. King, who was already in New York planning to attend an anti-war protest march from Central Park to the United Nations building, delivered a speech that was entitled Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break the Silence. And he spoke of how the commitment of the US to the war in Vietnam had resulted in an abandonment of the focus on social justice efforts at home, specifically for Black Americans who, in spite of the legislation of the Civil Rights Act 4 years earlier, still lived with the daily realities of segregation, marginalization, and oppression. It was one of King's most controversial speeches at the time, with the New York Times, NAACP, and civil rights and peace activist Ralph Bunche calling the speech a mistake, and that equating the anti-war movement to the civil rights movement an oversimplification, and linking these hard, complex problems will not lead to solutions but to deeper confusion. Yet King was a man who was never afraid of speaking difficult realities that many people did not want to admit or confront. The significance of where King delivered his speech was not lost on me, and most likely not on King either. Riverside Church, located in the Morningside Heights neighborhood of Manhattan, is a congregation of the American Baptist Churches USA, and later also the United Church of Christ, that has been a focal point of global and national activism and a center for religious liberalism in the United States, known for its social justice history. Since its inception in 1925, its first minister, Harry Emerson Fosdick, who led the church for its first 20 years, declared that it was his intention for the congregation to be, quote, interdenominational, interracial, and international, at a time when it was not popular to be any of the above. Its first Sunday school teacher was Sophia Lyon Foss, who would eventually go on to become the developer of contemporary Unitarian Universalist religious education, and it would count many other 20th century UU ministers among its ranks, looking for their own personal spiritual nourishment and inspiration when they were not serving their respective congregations. The words from King's speech imply that he understood deeply the nuanced meaning of the words to dwell together in peace, the next line of our affirmation statement. In a sense, these words are arguably the most aspirational of the affirmation statement. Dwell is a unique word of Middle English origin that means to remain for a time or to live as a resident. But they are aspirational words in the sense that they speak of where we look to be or hope that we have arrived, while belying the work and the journey that it took to bring about the state of peace in which we are longing to dwell. Peace is not something that happens overnight, nor is it something that magically happens if you simply assemble a diverse crowd of people in a room. It is something that takes work, commitment, and intention, and it is something that many who would for it are resigned to the fact that they may never see it in their lifetimes, but that it can be a reality for future generations of people like them. King, like many other U.S. civil rights activists, were heavily influenced by the nonviolence resistance movement led by Mahatma Gandhi in the fight for Indian independence from the British Empire. Although this was successfully achieved in 1947, Gandhi's journey to being an advocate for peace and racial social justice began from an early age. Initially a very shy and timid individual, he moved to London in 1888 at the age of 18 to study to become a lawyer. After graduating and struggling to find his footing as a lawyer in India, he obtained a one-year contract to move to South Africa to provide legal services. His time in South Africa was a transformative one. He was able to see firsthand the discrimination and racial segregation that the white British and Boer authorities had inflicted upon the Indian immigrant community in South Africa. He would experience this discrimination firsthand in 1893 when he was forcibly removed off of a train car that he was riding in after a white passenger complained that Gandhi would not move to give him his seat, even though Gandhi had a ticket. This would galvanize Gandhi's resolve to work for peace and social justice through the means of nonviolent civil disobedience. In 1906, he began his Satyagraha movement, meaning truth force or love force. It advocated achieving social change not through violence, but standing up for one's self and one's own self-worth by refusing to participate in systems of oppression that were meant to hold people down. When Gandhi returned to India in 1914, he began a series of mass boycotts against the British establishment, encouraging government officials to stop working for the crown, students to stop attending government schools, soldiers to leave their posts, and citizens to stop paying taxes and purchase British-made goods, such as making their own cloth instead of buying British-made clothes. One of Gandhi's most iconic acts of civil disobedience was the Salt March in 1930. After the British made it illegal for Indians to collect or sell salt and imposed heavy taxes on salt, a dietary staple in India, Gandhi organized a 240-mile march of nearly 60,000 people to collect salt from the Arabian Sea in direct defiance of the government monopoly. Throughout his movement of nonviolent civil disobedience, although the collective aim was achieving civil rights from the British for the people of India, Gandhi was very aware of the conflicts between the Indian people and tried to bring unity between them, especially religious violence between India's Hindu and Muslim communities and equal rights and treatment for the untouchables, those on the lowest level of India's caste system. What the example of both Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. tell us is that if peaceful coexistence is truly what we are seeking, it is something that we have to put intention behind and to which we have to be committed. It is also something to which we have to constantly recommit ourselves to realizing. Community activist and author Barry Schenker describes an intentional community as a relatively small group of people who have created a whole way of life for the attainment of a certain set of goals. In many ways, our UU congregations have been intentional communities that have attracted people from different racial, ethnic, religious, and class backgrounds. While we come together for a common goal, be it spiritual nourishment or social justice and positive social change, we are also microcosms of different people from different lived experiences who are working together to figure out how we live in community and peace with each other. The work that we do among ourselves in church community and our values of justice, equity, interdependence, transformation, pluralism, and generosity, all with love as their foundation, are a reflection of how we are promising to be with other people that we are encountering in the world outside of the church to achieve the goal of dwelling together in peace. This includes not just how we come together and get along in good times, but also how we navigate conflict, how we resolve our differences in love and understanding. And even if we find that we must agree to disagree about things that are important to us, how can we compromise and work together to find a way to continue in peaceful coexistence? As Dr. King's words echo, it is work that is long and sometimes bitter, but it can also be beautiful and can help to bring about a new world. And not only a new world, but a new way for those who come after us to live and be with each other. May that peace be a reality in which all are able to dwell, and may it be something we can dwell in now and for the future. May it ever continue to be so. Blessed be. Amen. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Thank you all so much. May the beautiful, beloved community that I see reflected back at me continue to shine bright always.